Hey there everybody, we're back in the camper. It's emptied out, at least the bottom part, so it must be the weekend. Today we're doing a little work on this back section. I had filmed a video of me making a template for matching the curves, which I thought I could use for the back section, and then paneling this and the other side of it and the front, which still is insulated. These curves are pretty close, so I did make one template. I should make it work. I'm going to use it to make my pieces slightly oversized so I can kind of do a little final scribing for each individual piece. They're not all identical due to the wavy nature of this plywood and a few other factors. I've got to cut these back pieces. I'm going to do one piece on the left here with a couple notches. And then there'll be one small notch here, sorry for the lighting, represented by these black dots. So this piece has some paneling to land on. So I'm going to cut it pretty much to the edge, outside edge of this frame, which is 37.5 inches. There'll be one piece over here and a strip of matching thickness material. And then I have some slightly thinner plywood. I'm a little bit short on this sheet of material that I had. I only have one sheet left. And so I'm going to use another scrap I have. It's a little bit thinner, but this is all going to be covered by my propane storage and stuff anyway. So, and actually there's going to be another layer of insulation going on here where my fridge area is going. Anyway, so there's going to be one little scrap that's a little bit thinner, but you're never going to know. So we are going to go size this. I've measured it as 81 inches floor to ceiling, where it's going to terminate, and 37.5 inches wide. So first thing is to take a big rectangle and make a slightly smaller rectangle out of it. For anyone noticing that I do a little step when I turn the dust collector on, I have a little, it's an air bubble, an air activated switch or actuated switch. So you just hit it with your foot. Boink. So now I need to know where to position my template. So I've cut it to go from the wall, sorry with the lighting, from the wall to this, outside of this frame here. And we are basically floor to ceiling from the center. So when I place my template, we're actually probably going to be about 1/8 lower than the highest spot there. So I made my template to fall in line with the bottom of this, which is 11 3/4 from the center down to that line. But my piece is going to be sitting over here, so it's going to be slightly less than the very top. So I measured from the bottom up to that line, to here, which is 69 3/8. So that's where I'm going to put the bottom of my template. So I measured up from the bottom to this point and struck a line, and that's where the bottom of my template is going to go. So the very top of this will end up just a tiny little bit higher than my actual piece, which is fine because this piece is to the left of the center, if that all makes sense. So now I'm going to try and not move the template because I'm holding my camera, and I'm just going to gently draw a line, and I'm going to use that to jigsaw off the bulk of this waste, and then I'm going to clamp this onto my piece and reuse the router to trim it flush. Okay, kind of a contrived setup here. So this table it's like a thin metal rail. It's really bad to clamp to, unless you're right over the center of it. It doesn't like to clamp very tight. Pain in the ass. So I got one on here, it's pretty secure. The router might knock it off. So I've got an F clamp here, holding the jig on tight. I've got an F clamp here. So I'm gonna route partway through, put an F clamp behind it, take this one off and finish the cut. So make sure this is far enough back so I have space for my router to start. And we'll just finish our cut. Okay, so one thing on this particular router is it has a very large opening. So as you're going to exit, it really wants to fall off. So you have to really concentrate on the part you do have contacted and make sure it's staying level. Actually came off that one a tiny bit prematurely, but I think it'll get us close enough for our purposes. There's a small chance this may be a little bit too tall. Where it's gotta go. Thank God for editing. So I filmed a little segment. I brought this piece in there, but it's because it's pushed over to the right. It's actually a bit too tall. It's actually going into the other side of the downward curve. So I bent it in place and direct measured, or did a direct reading for my notch, but I should have just probably measured it. It was a lot easier. I was trying to be all fancy, schmancy, YouTube cool. So we're just going to mark this out. I'm just going to go in there and quickly double check my measurements. So this will be what I'm cutting out. This will be what should be remaining. And my height. All looks correct so far. So, of course, this piece is quite large. And for the safest operation, so that my waste piece is going to fall away from the blade and not between the blade and not be between the blade and the fence, I'm going to have to mark the back side as well. One of these cuts is going to be with this side up. These lines are just for reference. I'm actually going to be using the table saw fence to set the actual marks, but it's going to be a stopped cut. So these will let me know where to stop. And then I'm just scribbling the piece we're going to cut. So this cut, I wanted to have 22.5 including the blade. So my mark wants to fall on this side of the blade. Okay. One cut, I'm going to stop at this cross line. Okay, so I'm doing the first cut this way. I'm going to cut and stop, and I'm going to turn our piece. As we rip it, this piece is going to fall away from the fence and the blade and not be pinched. Let the blade stop. So the blade's rotating this way. If you try to slide it out, could cause problems. So now we want to set our measurement is from the fence to the right side of the blade. Oh, what's this hiding in the corner? It's a cubic mini grizzly tiny wood stove for my camper. What's it doing over here? Well, it's awaiting install, obviously, as well as all my double-walled flue pipes and roof exit kit are still stuck in Richmond, British Columbia due to well, there's been some delays due to the flooding and weather we've been having lately. So I do have an unboxing video of this if you want to check it out. Okay, so I'm sorry that the lighting here is really poor. I had another halogen lamp. The bulb is burnt out. I don't have a spare, so we're making do with a little weak 40-watt LED. So if you can see this framing material here for my jack through bolt cutouts, I'm just going to mark the center of that because I need somewhere for this panel to catch, and also the little filler panels I put in there. They need a little meat to catch on as well. These have a couple little nails that need pounded down. So I'm just going to mark, well, this one actually will be flush with this. This one is pre-marked. So we're going to slide this in and mark this panel for our last, hopefully last notch here. So we are still a little bit proud at the top. We do have a little scribing to do, it seems. I just repositioned my jig, so I'm just putting it a little bit further down than I originally had it set. So we're just going to take off a little bit extra. Okay, so the problem I'm having is that I can only reference this off the fence, and it pretty much is just touching the fence here as that isn't getting engaged. So we're gonna lengthen our fence. To be honest, I should have just done this a small curved top section and then just a square notch piece. Would have been a lot easier. Anyway. Well, I'm going to call this piece fit, I would say. Probably should have just done it in two pieces. It would have been a lot easier. However, I like to punish myself. So I think I'm going to call that for today. I got a bunch of work to do tomorrow, including installing this panel and probably a few other small curved pieces. They're only going to be equivalent of like the top portion of this. Tomorrow I've got some trim work to do, including the under cab and under wings. And we might even get started wire brushing this. I don't know if you can see this here. I lightly went over this with a hand wire brush. I do have one that attaches in a drill. I'm going to texture the heck out of this stuff. I think it's going to look super cool. So that'll probably be coming up in the next video. So thanks for watching, everybody.